Welcome back to the Celtic Exchange. This is Tino, and this week we're bringing you our latest pre-season special as Celtic is set to head for the States for a 3-game tour that will see us take on DC United, Man City and Chelsea as the prep for the new campaign ramps up. But will they be joined by any new signings on their travels? To discuss this and a whole lot more, I'm joined here by Brydo and by Mif. Mif, less than 3 weeks to go until the league campaign kicks off. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Hello Tino, hello Brydo, hello listeners. And I would say that based on the last maybe 12 hours, I'm feeling a wee bit more perky because there's actually been some rumours which seem to be tangible rumours. Prior to that, I was making them up myself. A few problem areas seem like they're going to get solved, none more so than the goalkeeping situation, and it would be nice. I think it's just for any group of fans when it's at pre-season, when you're going on a tour, you just want to see some new faces in there, and it feels like all we've had in the past 2-3 weeks is about exits, is about contract wrangles, is about, you know, young players leaving and not getting opportunities, and that in itself can tend to be quite negative at a time in the season when it's normally one for optimism and looking forward to seeing, you know, a new team wearing the annual new strip, or 3 new strips as the board like to produce every season now. So I'm feeling perky.
Perky's all we can ask for at this stage, Miff. We'll get to the rumours and those potential new signings shortly, but Brydo, I wanted to come to you. Been a while since you've been on, so welcome back. I was going to ask,
very dapper,
but where do you stand, Brydo, at the moment? Are you in the it's cool, calm down, plenty of time for signings, or is it time to get your panic in?
Nah, cool, calm and collected with
it.
Yeah. I just think had my Celtic break for a bit, watched the Euros, which gave me a fantastic end, and now my pre-season with Celtic starts myself. It's the thinking, the chatting, the seeking out rumour after rumour for any source that tells me what I want to hear.
Do you buy much into the suggestion that the suggestion that the Euros were what was preventing us making some signings?
100%. I think for Celtic to sign the players that we want to sign, the market needs to be nudged. You know, so we'll be taking players from a certain bracket, if you like, and that bracket will be players that are attached to clubs until they sign maybe somebody that's better than them, and then that player then gets nudged out, and then we then look and see who's available. Until the market gets moved around a bit, I think it's difficult for us to find those players, because they'll all be expressing, the players will maybe want to maybe stay in the Premiership or other leagues that are better than ours.
So you think it's a kind of trickle down thing, Brydo? So you need your Man Cities and Liverpools and
absolutely
whoever's to make their big moves, and we're a couple of brackets down from that, and that's when we can start to move. Is that your thinking?
I think so, and I think Rodgers likes to look at the market he's worked in before, which is obviously the English market. He's not going to go away to Korea and Asia and Australia. I think that kind of experiment has worked for us, but I don't think he's going to be going there anytime soon. I think he's going to go to the place which he's comfortable with.
That experiment's not worked for O, but we'll get to him just in a wee bit. I ended up in a fairly lively debate, Miff, on Twitter over the weekend about my feeling that Celtic potentially are continuing their model of lowballing when they make offers to Adam Idah, for example. You know, I think the general position, I'm playing about with the numbers, but the position is, you know, Norwich wants 6. You want 6? How about 4? No, we want 6. What about 4.5? And so on and so forth. And I think Celtic play this game a lot. I've suggested they might be doing that with Daniel Kelly, and we'll get to Daniel Kelly and his unique circumstances just shortly, but you lads will be aware that Ivan Toney, a guy who we watched last night, a very good footballer by the way, and a guy who's worth a right few quid now in terms of the transfer value from Brentford, he was in the building at Lennoxtown. He revealed that during the 2020-2021 season he was up, he'd had talks with Lenny, and the suggestion is that he'd agreed personal terms, Miff, but Celtic couldn't reach the figure that Peterborough United wanted at the time. They lowballed, and you lose out on a guy, and I think that's criminal.
Why did you need to bring that up?
It's my job, Miff.
We'll try to be dead positive.
Jeez, Tino, man.
We'll get to all the positive stuff.
He's just dropped us in it for the start.
But you imagine a guy like he'd have torn it up here for 3 seasons in Europe as well. I think he's a phenomenal talent and well capable of being part of a very talented England squad. You know, a squad that failed, but a talented squad all the same. These are the guys.
Good boot in there, Tino.
These are the guys we've got to get. You've got to get them before they go to the Premier League. Can you get them when they're turning up in the Championship or even League One? Matt O'Reilly been a great example actually. But we continue to try and put in these, I think, probably insulting offers at things.
And you mentioned the Idah, whatever. kind of low balling. But I think there's a similar pattern with Bernardo as well, potentially. I think it seems a similar type where everybody wants a deal done, everybody's kind of pretty much agreed, but it's just the actual price and the haggling goes on. And listen, I know that the board have obviously got a duty for us to make sure that we get the right value out the deal, but I think when you've had players on loan and you know what you're getting, you should probably have, I think the room for haggling's probably reduced somewhat, because you know what you're getting, you've probably got your own idea of the value, and as long as it's not anything astronomical, let's get them in as quickly as possible so that they can go on your pre-season tour.
Paolo Bernardo was a loan with an option to buy, so that negotiation should actually have happened 12 months ago. So why are we back at the negotiating table? If you want him, and it seems that Celtic and Rodgers do want him, go and make that deal happen. We had the debate, we were on a couple of weeks ago, myself, James and somebody else, can't remember who, but we had the discussion about who is the guy at Celtic making those calls and having those conversations and being that negotiator. Who is the guy that's saying to Norwich, we'll give you that instead? Who's the guy that goes and makes that pitch on Celtic's behalf?
I think it's the financial director guy. I think Michael Nicholson leans on
Chris Mackay.
Yeah, Chris Mackay. I think the difference between Nicholson and Lowell is that Lowell is a numbers man, isn't he? And I think Nicholson's a kind of legal background, so numbers isn't. I think he leans on him a lot, and then from that then means there's more voices and there's more opinions. But I don't mind Celtic trying to get the best deals, and I get that, and some you win and some you lose, because when we're selling our players, we're not underselling them. In the recent history shows, you're talking about getting 4.5 million for I just think that somebody's made that up.
Do you think? So obviously I'm reading between the lines, and my best guess is that we are lowballing. Do you disagree with that? Do you think we're not quite taking that approach?
I just think that it's exactly what it is. It's a negotiation, and you've got people going in there saying, right, well, we think it's this. Then okay, let's find the piece in the middle, and that takes time maybe. And then you've obviously got to get the players' wages and stuff sorted as well. But there's a lot of moving parts, perhaps, as fans, that we sometimes don't maybe appreciate. But we do. You're right though. We have lost out on some. John McGinn's another one. But
but we got Willow Flood.
But listen, and Willow Flood is a lovely guy, I'm sure. But he's a guy that looked old when he was young. He will look the same age.
He's just going his age now.
A bit of Benjamin Button.
He's grown in himself.
Miff, what do you think of the way we approach these deals?
I'm just so suspicious of the board. Actually, what Brydo seems complete common sense, and it's the reality of these deals. Very unlikely that the broad terms will be cast iron after a loan, but at the same time, given that you're not really jumping into the unknown like you would be with a new signing, and you've not had them in the building and training, managers looked at them, you would imagine there's a broad remit there that they're given to, right, go and do the deal. I would have just expected, given that neither were involved in the Euros, we would have kind of pushed those deals on, got them done so that they were in for even the earlier pre-season games, because there's an obvious benefit to having them back in, because they've obviously have friendships in the squad and things like that as well. So I would like to I thought that was the easier thing to do, is we want them, we need them in, just get them in.
The Bernardo thing though as well, the Celtic might be like, right, we think we want him and we think we need him. We've seen a wee bit from him, and I personally think he's a really good player, and I personally think that we should be signing him. But they may have other options that they're looking at as well. They think, do you know what, I'm not sure, is it him that we need? Is O'Reilly going? Is he staying? Which we all think he probably will be going. So when I say there's moving parts, there's even more when we're considering other sales and transfers.
Yeah, I do accept that and appreciate it. And you're right, Brydo, there are things that we don't know, but just now and then you wouldn't mind a wee glimmer of what's happening. Part of that online debate I had, Miff, and it was good, there was a lot of interesting replies to it. So a lot of folk are saying, well, listen, where's the hassle? There's still 6-7 weeks left of the window. The window's open till the end of August. There's no great hurry. I totally disagree with that. So we play against Kilmarnock on Flag Day in under 3 weeks now. It was 3 weeks on Sunday. You've then got the Champions League, which is maybe another few weeks down the track. And I do think you need to bring guys in and give them time to bed in. Some of these guys are coming from foreign climes. You want to allow them to, get used to the way of the world here in Glasgow and in Scotland. Certainly used to their teammates, certainly used to Brendan Rodgers and his unique ways, all that kind of stuff. And one guy said to me, oh, well, what about Henrik Larsson? He didn't arrive till July and August and he done all right. And I said, all right, tell me about Henrik Larsson's debut. And if you want to cast your mind back, Henrik Larsson famously came on Came off the bench at Hibs, gave the ball to Chick Charnley, and Celtic lose 2-1, I think, on the day. He done all right after that, I'll concede, but it was just quite an unusual example to give, because any player, Henrik Larsson or otherwise, needs time to adjust. You can't sign a guy on a Friday, play him on a Saturday and expect everything to be cooking with gas. So I do think the time is now to get these bodies in.
I agree, and I think the deficiencies in the squad, if you want to call it that, given that Hearts' goodbye was a very long one, we knew what we were being faced with. The thought of us flying off in the tour to America without a goalkeeper having come in is, I just don't think that's good enough. Now, since the Euros has ended, it seems there has been a real burst of rumour and apparent activity, so hopefully all that will get confirmed over the next couple of days, but it would appear moves are afoot.
It seems that we might just be about to spring into life. Matthew, you bring us perfectly into the goalie situation.
Done.
You're a pro. So, as everyone will have heard, the suggestion is that Kasper Schmeichel looks set to sign. The latest updates today are that he'll take a medical in Italy for some reason. I don't know why, Brydo, but he's taking a medical in Italy tomorrow to then go and join up with the squad Wednesday, Thursday over in the States, and that would be perfect. Beyond that, you may have heard the rumour that we're also about to sign a young goalie from Villa, a Finnish goalie called, bear with me, Viljami Samasalo.
Sounds good.
That'll do, right? VJ. And he's going to come in and basically be the succession plan. He's 22. He's had a few loan spells. Mif, I think you caught wind of the fact that he'd done particularly well at Exeter City last season. And he would be the 22-year-old learning under the experience of Kasper Schmeichel, who looks like he's got a couple of seasons left in the tank. He's got 105 caps for Denmark, played all 4 of their games at the Euros. And that in itself, I'm perfectly comfortable and perfectly happy if that's what transpires. Brydo, what do you think of that bit of business we look to be doing?
I think it's, for me anyway, it's as perfect as I think we're able to do it. I think getting Kasper Schmeichel in, there's a lot of I've heard some things and read some things about the fact he's older than Joe Hart and that type of thing. Doesn't really matter. Like, he's just off the back of playing for his country. 105 caps, you were telling me earlier on. We've also have to replace the experience that Joe Hart brought to the dressing room. He's very good with the ball at his feet. He's an excellent shot stopper. I think he's perfect for us in like a Champions League level. Domestically, we could probably, in a lot of the games, I wouldn't say we get away with Scott Bain, that's for sure, but we can get away with perhaps a lesser goalkeeper. But I think getting him in for the here and now is absolutely perfect. He's a free transfer. His wages will be high. But to add in kind of that wee caveat of having that young player signing as being as understudy, if you like, I think then that is the model that we should be looking to try and achieve, not just in that position, but maybe in several others.
If I think on that note, having the young guy coming in at the same time makes a deal that may be concerning, all of a sudden makes perfect sense. If it was just Schmeichel and nobody else, in which Schmeichel, Bain and another this season, that would be a worry. That would be a concern. But as Brydo points out there, bringing this young guy in to develop under him, it's almost the perfect deal if Celtic can get it over the line.
Well, there is that. A lot of disrespect for the Maniac as well. I'm not too sure.
Mostly
sure
from
I
you.
feel about that. I'm suspicious of this deal because it makes so much sense, and it seems to be what we all want. So until it's sort of ratified and done, I'll save my judgment. But again, seeing as you have brought back my PTSD about the 2021 season, remember that transfer window where we all thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just feel really uncomfortable. I just don't want to praise the board now until the deals are done and you see the evidence out in the park. But see, as far as the Schmeichel, even if it was Schmeichel on his own, I would still be saying that it completely makes sense because we need an experienced goalkeeper. And yes, he's a wee bit older, but he's playing international football. He's been still playing at a very decent level. So, yep, get him in. But the fact that it's been backed up by us looking to the future and getting somebody in to learn with him as he goes along, it makes complete sense. Yeah, so just to recap on Schmeichel, he turns 38 in November. He was at Anderlecht last season at Nice, I think, the season before. And the suggestion is Celtic are going to give him a 1 year deal with a 1 year option, which makes perfect sense. The chat online, you might have seen some flippant responses about the fact that he's ex-Falkirk, fairly well known that he was at Falkirk on loan at a time. Simasolo was at Ayr United just a couple of seasons ago, and Joe Hart was ex-Shrewsbury. So it's, hold on a minute, we're replacing the ex-Shrewsbury guy
with a guy that played at Ayr United and a guy that played at Falkirk, and it's you can't win if you're the Celtic board. But that's the rod they've set for their own back with some of their previous stuff. There's a couple of other links, as you say, Mif. It looks like we might be about to burst into life after a fairly quiet few weeks. It's almost 2 months since the Cup final, so that was 25th of May. We're now not far off that in July. But the other big link today is a 23-year-old Belgian winger, Michelangelo Balikwisha, if I've got that right.
Good names, innit?
We'll go for it. He's currently playing at Royal Antwerp, and I don't know if you lads have seen that signing, but by all accounts, quite an exciting one as well. Yeah,
I think they say that he plays in the left predominantly, but he can also play in the right wing, and like a kind of second striker or something like that. So without knowing or looking at him too much, again, position wise, and then his kind of style of play wise, it sounds like that's something that I think we would all agree with. We probably do need to strengthen. When, as much as we all love James Forrest, the fact that he had to come and bail us out, if you like, at times, that's not progressive. That's not what we should be.
Yeah.
So I think coming in again that's the kind of exciting transfer. The goalkeeper's not exciting. That's the type of ones that you want to see in the friendlies and stuff.
So what we could see over the next 7 days, Mif, is the 2 new goalies, potentially Idah returning, Bernardo returning, and the young winger here from Antwerp. That in itself would be exciting, but is there still a concern? And I know, we've kind of joked about it. I know you're a big fan of Greg Taylor and what he's done in his time at Celtic, but he is our only left back option at this moment in time. Bernardo, forget that. So is that a real priority? Even just in terms of if Taylor were to get injured, but I think we need an upgrade on that position as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, that and another centre half as well.
Yeah, I agree.
The other big concern is that we'll get to O a wee bit later in the piece. Obviously, he's made his move to Belgium. Right now, less than 3 weeks to the kick-off, we've got one recognised striker in the building, and it's Kyogo. That's not great planning, Brydo.
No, but it's probably just a timing factor. So I think the Idah deal will be just a bit over the line. I think he'll travel with them to America. I think that's O's out the door. There's £4.5 million. They're not, and I don't think there'll be an issue there at all with that. So he'll be there. I have an issue actually around will Kyogo be there himself in this after the summer window. I thought that at the end of last season he didn't cut that figure that we're used to seeing, and I actually think that Idah plays suits Brendan Rodgers' style better than Kyogo does, and I would love it if we had both, love it. But if that were to be the case, then we've got serious problems. You're right, because we would need to add further. And I think we need another striker anyway.
Yeah.
Even if Kyogo was to stay, I think it would be Kyogo, Idah, and a other. I think this idea of Idah would then be the third striker, or I don't really buy it. No. To be honest with you.
This makeshift thing about he can also slot in at striker. Get a striker, get 3 strikers, and those 3 can fight out. So whether it's Kyogo, Idah, and another, or maybe Kyogo moves on, whatever it needs to be, Celtic need 3 bona fide number 9s to scrap it out. There's a lot of talk at the moment, lads, about Daniel Kelly, and I'm keen to hear where you're at on it. So a lot of the fans they've kind of bracketed him and Rocco Vata together, getting above your station. Well, do you know what, on you go, make your move, you're not good enough for us anyway, and all that kind of stuff. I think Daniel Kelly is a young guy who this time last year was unknown, for most of us. He's now made his breakthrough to the first team. I think he played 6 times last season. He's very much entitled, Mif, to ask for an improved deal. And we just don't know how good a deal Celtic have put to him or not. There's a quote which I'll read out in a second from Brendan Rodgers, but I don't think just because you're a young guy you should accept the first deal that's put on the table. As much as Celtic will negotiate however they do, Daniel Kelly and his representatives are right to hold out for the right move for him, or the right deal for him, to allow him to develop here at Celtic over the next few years. But what's your perception from the outside looking in? Do you think he's being a bit naive?
I think it's catch-22 for both him and the club, because there's not enough evidence to go and offer him what you would describe as a bumper contract. There always has been an unwillingness at Celtic to offer bumper contracts to youngsters, because they've yet to prove themselves that they can go and be in the team for a full season and be in and around the squad and contribute. Mm-hmm. That's fair enough. I understand that, but there's got to be some times where you do take a leap of faith and say, right, this lad is for us. And I don't think the money you'll be talking about, I assume anyway, I don't think it'll be astronomical.
No.
So why not back one of your own to come in and make an impression? Now, there's obviously ramifications for that in terms of even the Champions League and how many homegrowns we have in the squad. So a lot of different things tie in with it. I agree with you. Both the club and the player are within their rights to seek the best deal for both parties, and that's fine. But Rockovac is slightly different in the sense that I think, you know, that chat had been going on for so long. It was quite elongated. He'd been in and around the first team. According to Rodgers, he was offered the position of being the third striker, and has said no. Again, fine, he'll go and take his chances elsewhere, and best of luck to him for that. As far as Kelly goes, again, I wouldn't say I've seen enough of him where I'd be saying, you know, blank check, just give him what he wants so that he can stay. But at the same time, we probably need to be taking a chance on some of these guys. Otherwise, we just end up with the exact same situation happening every time, where I would think surely you would be looking for regularly, and I know structural changes have happened in the player pathway from under 18s or academy through the B team and into the first team. But surely you would be looking for at least a couple of graduates for the youth squad to be coming in every season anyway. Is this not a good case in point for us to showcase that, to say, look guys, here's the pathway beginning. From this season on, we're looking for at least 2, maybe 3 to be coming in and joining the first team squad.
This is where I think we really need to have that joined up thinking, Brydo, between Brendan Rodgers and the first team and whatever the various coaches at the academy are doing. So whether it's Steve McManus, Johnny Hayes has joined the party, and various others, you've got this new role. So Darnell Day stepped into this new role of, I think it's player pathway coordinator. I'd like to think it's something that will certainly help these young lads make it through, and it's obviously something that Celtic have recognised. They've seen there's a gap there. There's not enough coming through. So obviously at the moment we're well familiar with Callum McGregor, Kieran Tierney, James Forrest, 1 or 2 others that have made it to the first team. And by make it, I mean playing regularly at different times. You can't include Stephen Welsh, for example, who's in and out, you know, and a few other guys like him. Do you think that O'Day will be able to bridge that gap? You know, it's obviously, he's a guy who's been there, done it. He's been in the academy, and he's then gone on to play Champions League for Celtic. Do you think he's got the capability to allow more young guys to come through the benefit of his experience?
I think it's a difficult job that he's got. Hopefully that's what he's there to do, because we've lost 2 people to Bayern Munich, we lost somebody to Dortmund, we've lost a few to Chelsea, we lost a goalkeeper to, I think it was Man United and Liverpool. You know, this cross-border thing affects us badly. We reap the benefits for the likes of Frimpong and Moussa Dembele and things, but we're absolutely crucified when the players just get taken away, the families go offered houses and all this kind of stuff, and away they go. I think it's really, really difficult, and I think on Kelly particularly, I actually think he's, first of all, for a young guy, he's physically developed. He's very much a young man who's ready to take on the physicality that's in the Scottish game. I think it would be a really wrong move for him personally to do that, to not sign the contract. I do actually think they'll get over the line and they will sign a contract. I do think that, but what you're about to say, obviously, with Brendan coming out and saying what he said, that I think gives me kind of faith that they are trying to join it up. But there's obviously there's different factors, and all the factors have got to agree on it. And what Rodgers has essentially said is, well, that's the factor that's the problem. They're asking for too much. He's actually come out and said that, and to come out and say that, that's I've not really heard it that much. So he's coming out and saying, listen, where you are, your development, that's where you should be. I don't think that maybe Celtic are trying to be, you know, cheap with it. There'll be other players in the dressing room on a certain level of money. I know that some of the boys that came from Japan, they're not on crazy money. So does Daniel Kelly all of a sudden want more money than somebody who's playing and contributing more than he is? So there's all these kind of balancing things, and I'd imagine it'd be quite difficult. So to answer your question with Darnell Day, yes, I do think that will make it better, because quite personally, I don't think it could get much worse, because we're not really doing anything.
It's not working at the moment.
Yes,
there's no doubt about that. I think I quite like the way Rodgers is playing it. I think he's well within his rights to. You read the headlines, you know, Kelly banished to train with the reserves or whatever it is, but he's clearly not part of the first team pre-season just now. I doubt, unless something changes dramatically in the next 24, 40 hours, he won't be on the plane to the States either. One of my other concerns, Mif, outside what the club are doing, what Darnell Day might do, what the academy are producing, is the ongoing role of agents in football, and what I see, or what I suspect, as poor advice being given to these players, because ultimately an agent certainly gets paid more when a player makes a move. If Daniel Kelly signs a new deal, his agent will get a couple of quid. If Daniel Kelly moves to Leverkusen's the rumoured side, he'll get a right few quid. You know, everyone cashes in there. So the agent's got that genuine 50-50. do I give the player what is genuinely the best advice for his career, or do I give him some advice which might work out okay, but I get paid? And that's the gist of it. That's the two-way street, or the two choices, should I say, that the agent's got, available to him. And I think Daniel Kelly and Rocco Vata and the other lads, so Liam Morrison went to Bayern Munich, and Barry Hepburn and various guys, they've got the call Mif to make. Am I going to choose football, or am I going to choose money? And it's easy for us sitting here, we're not getting offered thousands of pounds a week contracts to play football, and it's easier for, I've seen some guy on Twitter, if he's a genuine Celtic fan, he'll sign whatever the deal is.
No,
that would just be stupid, right? You've got to look out for your future. Football's a short career. He could get injured in training tomorrow. Correct. John Kennedy is a great example, a guy that's in the building at the moment. So what do you think, Mif? Is there a whole lot of factors, agents, managers, players, ambition? What do you think?
Well, I think it's nonsense to think that the fact you're a Celtic fan comes into it when you're talking about your career, because he's got to think about his progress. It's a nice aside, the fact that he's a Celtic fan, but he's came through the academy, so you'd imagine there's an affinity with the club anyway. A lot of the kids that come through the academy won't necessarily be Celtic fans, but they'll feel an attachment to the club and then want to, go on to the next level of their career. Hopefully it's Celtic where they can showcase their talents. But if those myriad of circumstances, as Brydo referred to, don't come together, then you look at your options. As far as the agents go, unfortunately, that's the world we live in, where they are really taking out the game. They are take-out merchants. Yes, they can badge it any way that they want, but that's what they do. They take out the game and they create situations like this. But they are doing exactly what they're paid to do, and they're getting the best option for their clients. For me, Daniel Kelly looks like he could be doing with just playing regularly. Probably more chance he's got to do that at Celtic than Leverkusen. From what I would gather, he would just be going over there to go into an under-21 squad or whatever. But like you rightly say, that move could make a huge difference to him and his family's lives. Who are any of us to judge him for that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Including the Celtic manager. So if what he's asking for is too much, how much is too much? None of us are in a position to determine that. This is the situation. Like I said before, the previous thing that I mentioned, it's a total chicken and egg scenario here. What do? You take the gamble and give the youth player an increased contract, or a contract that's maybe on a par with some of the experienced professionals in the dressing room, and all the political things that brings with it? Or do you hold your position and willingly lose this talent to someone else who could be, he may not be, but who could be someone who's going to help you win titles, improve in Europe, all those things? Because, quite frankly, if somebody like Leverkusen are interested in him, then there must be enough inherent talent there to suggest that he can contribute.
Gone are the days where like Alec Ferguson would go to somebody's house and say, "That's the contract, son, you're signing it," and they would have just the fear would make them sign the contract, and then you get like a class of '92 situation where you've got 6 or 7 players all making history essentially. That's gone. That type of manager's gone. That type of
the structure within the club,
conduct, that's all gone, and it makes it really difficult for clubs, I think. And players, they do hold all the aces normally, especially if they run their contracts down. So I think it's a really difficult situation for Celtic to be in. I think we all really hope that he signs, because I think when you look at him and he came on, and the fact that Rodgers has played him in some big moments as well, means that he thinks that he's got something to offer. If he's going to offer him a certain amount of money, so we don't lose him, then we need to play him. And is he the player? Is he going to fit into that team just now? Is he going to contribute? Would we all be happy if O'Reilly gets sold that he's one of the players that comes in? Maybe not.
That's always it, right? Yeah. That's always the thing, is we go on about this, promotion of youth. We're willing to sacrifice points in the season by playing youth, and we're not. We know for a fact we're not.
Yeah. Yep.
So hence why a Celtic manager will always go with tried and tested, experienced players, or players that have played a number of games in the first team for another club, before they'll promote for the youth, because of the intense pressure that they're under to win every game. And that takes us back to a podcast we done after the Copenhagen. We spoke about it, and they had something like 8 or 9 players that came through the Copenhagen youth development, and we didn't. I think Forrest came on that game or something, or McGregor, sorry, and that was one of the biggest. It was Copenhagen, wasn't it? We played.
I've no idea. I
can't
remember
season.
Last week, but I don't. I'll tell you what, I'll give you the quote from Brendan Rodgers, which gives you a good insight, a good idea of what his position is at the moment. So in terms of both the guys, Vata and Daniel Kelly, he says Rocco was offered a contract and he was going to be one of the 3 strikers at Celtic, but he decided that wasn't going to be for him, so he left. That's absolutely fine, and we wish him all the very best. Similarly, Daniel, as a young player, has been offered a really good contract by the club. It's a contract that would see him come into the first team squad and play and perform and develop, because he's still got a lot of development to do. I spoke with the agents and the players some months back to say, listen, if we can't tidy this up by the summer, then it's very hard to be with the team in pre-season, and it's as simple as that. And I think, that all sounds pretty fair, Brydo, to me.
Yeah, and I think it is, and I like it when Rodgers is bullish and that, and he comes out and he says certain things like that, because for me it's like it removes a lot of question marks. It's like, well, where does Rodgers stand in it? Is he unhappy with the board? Is he unhappy with the player? He came out and basically just said, no, the deal's fair. The player's chosen not to sign it, and if he doesn't sign it, he's not going. And if he's true to his word, he won't go, and he'll probably leave the club in December when his contract runs down. Now, whether or not that's a mere mind games with the young boy to make him sign a contract or whatever, that could be that too, but I like it when the manager comes out. And then last season he done it at particular points that kind of rallied the troops, if you like, and rallied the fans to a certain extent. So yeah, I think he's spot on what he's saying, and it must be true if he's coming out and publicly saying it, so that's his opinion obviously on it.
Yeah, Mif, I know you love it when he goes full Brendan. I think it's one of your favourite things in life. But just the last question, or part of the quote from Rodgers says he's been offered a really good contract by the club, but the last question for me is, what is seen as a really good contract by Brendan Rodgers in the interest of Celtic might not be seen by Daniel Kelly as a great contract for him. So that's where the impasse has come in, isn't it?
Absolutely, but I think the key thing to pick up on both quotes is that he clearly rates them, because they're being offered a place in the squad. No manager is going to guarantee any academy graduate game time. They need that carrot in front of them to say, right, well, you need to be performing and training every day. You need to be developing to earn your minutes on the pitch. It's only right that he has that attitude. That's what a manager should be saying. But clearly from Rodgers' words there, he does rate both of them and wants or wanted both of them to stay. So the ball is very much in their court. I don't think, it doesn't sound like there's got, well, I know that is a wee bit sort of, in terms of Kelly, it doesn't sound like there's going to be a huge amount of movement at the board's end or Celtic's end. So it's down to him what he sees as best for his career. And like I say, if he sees that way for Celtic because he can earn more money, fair enough. Fair enough. But I would like this cycle to come to an end where at least a couple of players are dropped into the first team squad, and we get to see them develop over a number of seasons.
Rodgers does talk about the fact that he has experience with young players. He mentions that, doesn't he, that he's
as part of that quote,
part of the quote, that in his experience with young players and where he is, that is the appropriate level of finance. And so he talks about the finance, and he obviously talks about the ability and development. Well, he's openly saying, aye, it's right, it's balanced, it's fair. It's just the problem here is you, and if you want to solve the problem and get it resolved, then you've got to shift.
Yeah, there is a whole other part of the quote, but I didn't have enough room in my spreadsheet, Mif, to put that in right.
You've got to the right part.
Times are hard. But no, he was talking about, he feels Rodgers and his experience, and he's a long time in the game now, he feels the offer is at the right level for the club based on Daniel Kelly's experience. I just think ultimately, I hope it's resolved. I really do. I think he seems a decent lad, he seems pretty grounded, but it's got to be the right deal for Celtic and the right deal for Kelly. So let's see what happens with that one. We've touched on another exit from the club just earlier on in the piece, and it's O. So he's obviously signed now for Genk over in Belgium. It is a rumoured £4.5 million, which is an absolute robbery from our point of view, because I think he signed for £2.5 million January 2023 under Ange. He's not done a whole lot in a Celtic shirt, Mif. He's scored, I think, 12 goals, 12 goals in 47 games. He's played just 44 minutes since the turn of the year. But for whatever reason, Genk have seen something in him, and I think there is something in him, but he's a bit of an unproven talent at this moment in time. The suggestion is it's £4.5 million after add-ons and benefits, but it seems the right move for all parties, doesn't it?
Yes, right move from him. He was never going to be what we needed him to be here, because he wasn't going to play enough. He was always regarded as the third striker when he was here. I think he's been a wee bit harshly dealt with. I don't mind him, if I'm being honest, but probably the most damning thing for him was that Idah arriving and being of a broadly similar profile and style was just such a obvious upgrade on him that it told us as fans what we were missing, because you need somebody that can hold the ball up and link the play and do all those things, and Idah just does it effortlessly.
Yeah, brilliantly. Brydo would mention the fact that at the moment Kyogo's the only recognised striker. The fact they're letting O leave, does that give you encouragement that there's a number 9 not far away, whether it's Idah or any others?
I'm going to be honest, I thought O was... I don't see anything. I think he's hopeless. I think he's absolutely hopeless. I'll go on record as saying that. I actually think he should just be called O, because every time he's playing, it's like, oh, this is not good. I think he runs around and he's got lots of endeavour, but he's just... Strikers are meant to have ice in their veins, I believe. Well, he's melted away. He's one of the places that it's, and to get 4.5 million, Genk. I'm glad we've not got Genk's negotiating committee if that's what they're buying it for.
Yeah, it could be worse. You've also got to look at the fact that, again, it's the misty eyes when you look back on Ange's time at Celtic. Ange signed him and a few others that didn't turn out to be particularly useful at all. Kobayashi, we might touch on him briefly, but there's a number of guys that come in on Ange's watch that haven't been up to much at all.
No, and they reckon... I mean, I was speaking to a friend of mine who's involved in the club, and because our transfer window, certainly the January one, was so bad, and we talked about... We actually started going through so many failed signings for Celtic, and it was like 1 in 3 is basically the start. Like 1 in 3. So we sign 3, 1 will work out, and the other 2 will not. You know, maybe a bit part or absolutely atrocious and not do anything at all. Like Idah, for example, you know, just didn't contribute that much, but unfair because he got an injury as well and things like that. But that's just the luck of the game. But you're right. I think Ange signed. It is a wee bit different though, because Ange was taking over a team that was really flat, and the squad was indeed torn up. Really, we had players there that just shouldn't have been there. It was really, really badly done the seasons before. He's had to then strip all back. So he didn't need numbers, whereas I think Brendan Rodgers needs numbers but quality. I think he's looking at quality so rather than quantity, and I think that's the slight difference, a big difference actually, in the situations at the minute. But you're right, and there's I think Liam Shaw's still there in the squad. I think he's still saying, remember him?
Uragide.
Uragide.
In terms of the current squad though, so as well as O exiting the building, Haksabanovic moved on as we know, Rocco Vata's away to Watford, Joe Hart's retired. Various guys have moved on already, and Mif, I think others need to follow. Of course, it's so important to bring in that quality that Brydo speaks of, but you've got guys like Siegrist, Lagerbielke, Kobayashi, Bernabe, Tilio, who's I think signed another extension to his loan in Melbourne. These guys at some point, pretty soon, need to be taken off the books at Celtic.
Mikey Johnson.
We'll do the Mikey Johnson special next week. I'm not ready for that yet.
No, I think that you're on record as saying that Rodgers likes a fairly neat squad, and it's felt bloated for some time. So yeah, there's a lot of guys there that just aren't going to feature, or that, you know, in the case of somebody like Lagerbielke, Rodgers has clearly made his mind up on fairly early doors and just thought you're no for me. So if that's the case, there's no point in us bumping our gums about it. If he's not got to play, he's not got to play. Get him out the door.
Where's the priority for you, Mif? We've speculated about goalkeeper and a few others here tonight, but where's the real focus? Is it striker? Is it left back? Is it Liam Scales?
There's still
he's always there.
Lots of work to be done for me in the squad. You need to trim that fat, absolutely, but we need a centre half. You know, there is absolutely no doubt about that. We need a left back. There is absolutely no doubt about that. If O'Reilly's going, you probably need another central midfielder, I would argue, unless you're planning in the likes of Kelly or Bernardo potentially coming in. And you needed a striker anyway. But with all going, you probably need to.
I think if you've Idah and Bernardo, although if we sign them full time, we're still essentially standing still. I think there needs to be additions on top of them. So for Riley, which we think he'll be away, I would fully expect another quality midfielder to come in and compete for a place. And it's not really that. I think they're all priorities, because left back, we don't have anybody other than, like you said earlier on, Greg Taylor. And then in the centre half position, we've got like 6 centre backs, but only one of them, to most people, would be good enough. and that might be a bit unfair on Scales, but it's just the reality of the game. That's it.
Even at that, even if you're saying Scales is going to play right most games or whatever, we don't have the strength and depth because he just continually subs Nawrocki. If he's playing like half a game or whatever, there's just no. And for a centre half, that's a hard thing. If you're constantly refreshing the partnership and you're only getting bits of games, that's no use either. You need somebody that's got to come in and genuinely be either an understudy to Scales or, preferably for me, a replacement.
I agree.
Celtic playing this way just now, but it's very generally a 4-3-3 formation, and actually, to my mind, I don't think you should be changing certainly not your goalie or your back four with any frequency. The front six, to call them that, Callum McGregor up to Kyogo, that front six can all be chopped and changed after the hour mark as you're looking to freshen things up and looking to have a go at any given game. But I think your back four, by and large, should remain your back four. And actually, we were speaking off air about Starfelt, for example, and I'm not buying into the theory that he should return at the club, but he done a great job, and he was part of a very consistent back four at the time, where you had Juranovic at right back, him and Carter Vickers in the centre, and Greg Taylor doing a good job at left back, and that just didn't change, and nor should it. And I think Celtic need to find that settled four, and I'm not sure Liam Scales should be part of it for the future, as much as I really admired what he brought to the party last season. And I put Greg Taylor in the same bracket, so I think there's upgrades required in both those areas. Question to you both: we've spoken about Paolo Bernardo, talented guy, played a huge part in the cup final, of course, in terms of the goal. If he does sign permanently, and the hope is that will happen in the coming days, are you happy with a starting midfield three for League and Champions League of McGregor, Hatate and Bernardo? Does he go right in as a starter for you?
Yeah, potentially, but I think we need a bit more athleticism in there. That seems a wee bit like a wee bit lightweight to me.
There's a lot of talk of us missing a defensive minded enforcer in the midfield, and I don't think it's going to be Iwata. It might be. He's got something, but is he maybe a couple of levels below?
I think he's a squad player. I think Iwata's a squad player, a very good squad player at that, but just somebody that would maybe fill in for a few games.
I think that defensive midfielder, that kind of strong, let's say Vincent Wanyama type.
Vincent?
What
about Victor?
Victor Wanyama. I think Big Vincent. Get Vincent in.
Big Vinny.
I think a player like that, and then that means McGregor is still featuring but goes forward. You're going to get a 2-for-1 if you like with that. So I think that becomes a slight priority as well. I think McGregor is constantly played in that, and as much as we need him, if we get somebody in there that can help him out a bit, that means he can play further forward, which means you can't take him off because somebody's in that pivotal position for the full game, not necessarily always having to be him. I think that's really, really important. I actually think Bernardo has actually got a lot of physicality. I think
he's rangy, isn't he? He's got that kind of stride. He gets about.
And he also likes getting torn in, which we didn't really expect, I don't think, when he actually initially signed.
Do you see him, if he does sign Brydo, do you see him as a starter or still a bit of a squad player at the moment?
I think in those three positions, McGregor's obviously one, so it's those two, and I think it would just be very similar to what we've seen. Hatate's always got knocks and stuff anyway. O'Reilly will probably be away, so there'll be something new coming in. So I actually think you'll find him starting something and dropped and starting, and I think it'll be a case of he'll start a lot of games, but he's not going to be a player that we all go, he has to start. When we're all pining for Hatate to come back, for example, it's not going to be that level, I don't think. I think it'll be McGregor, Hatate and the other position perhaps switching around a wee bit.
We've mentioned Matt O'Reilly a couple of times, and the question is, first of all, will he definitely leave? That's obviously the question a lot of folk are asking. The latest suggestion is that Juventus have now joined the race, so Juventus, Roma, Atalanta, Atletico Madrid have all been credited with an interest in him. What I admire about Matt O'Reilly is you'll have seen some of the pictures and some of the videos from pre-season training. Spot on attitude by the looks of it. That's a lot for any young guy to contend with. He looks like a guy who's just cracking on with training, and what will be. And I think we know from his various interviews since he's been at Celtic that he's got that level-headedness about him, that balance about him. But I think there's no doubt there will be concrete offers. The question is, will they be of the right amount for Celtic to allow him to leave?
Listen, we've been here before. I remember when Ange just first came, I was lucky enough, we actually just happened to be down in Newport, and we got to see all the players. We're still really heavily restricted, but even at that time in the squad, French Eddie was there, who subsequently moved on just at the end of the window. Ayer was there, Christie was there, who'd all kind of agreed moves and things like that are on their way out the door. So it's just part and parcel of what happens at this time of the year. You go back to your club, you go get your head down, you get yourself fit, because that's what you need to do.
Job.
And somebody like O'Reilly, we already know what sort of guy he is, what sort of attitude he has. He is very level-headed. He's very invested in his career, and that's the one thing about him is he's not your typical footballer. He seems to go against the grain a wee bit around how he thinks about the game and how he thinks about his own career. But there is absolutely no doubt that he is at that stage in his career where, for his own benefit, he probably should be moving on, because these opportunities, to those clubs that you round off there, just even the stature of those clubs for them to be interested in you is a great compliment. But there's a bit of substance behind it as well, because his numbers and what he's done and how he's improved since he came to Celtic, the exposure that he's given himself. Looking at that Denmark team, baffling why you wouldn't be in that. But I think it wouldn't surprise me if he maybe hung on to January to potentially play in the Champions League. That there might be an agreement there with another team to let him kind of stay, because his quotes at the end when Joe Hart was retiring, and there was a bit of chat around, I know wherever I go that I'm not going to get this, all that type of thing. He might just have that wee desire to stay and maybe try and play in the Champions League for Celtic for that period. But if I was a betting man, which I am, and I was putting a score on it, I'd say he'll leave before the end of the August transfer window. My hope is that he might hang around and play until January.
Yeah, and just on that, Brydo, I think we all hugely admire Matt O'Reilly and what he's brought to the party. He's been brilliant in the 2.5 years or so that he's been at Celtic. But if you could only choose one of the following two scenarios, that you keep him and you see what happens, Champions League and otherwise, or that you cash in now but then reinvest that substantial fee, 20, 25, 30 million, whatever it might be, back into improving various areas of the first team squad. What do you want? What would you prefer to happen?
Well, I know what I would want, but even if we sold him for the 25 million, history with the club, they don't do that. So we're essentially selling a player, somebody else values at 25 million. So to replace that, we need to buy somebody at 25 million. If you're never ever going to do that. So it's like we're talking about the quality over the quantity. So you could use that 25 million and you could buy 4 players, but we don't need 4 players. We need players of that quality or better. So it's just difficult to do that. What
if it lets you go and spend, say, 8 million on that defensive midfielder that we spoke about and a real quality left back? What if you just buy those two?
I would cash in, because it just leading up to, we know how it can affect. It's not affecting him that much. He did have a wee blip in the January when he was playing that looked like it affected him a wee tiny bit. But he is that, you're absolutely spot on. He is that type of guy, I think, who is pretty level headed. He's pretty chilled out. So it wouldn't affect him that much. But I think just for like that clarity for all of us, I think just sell him when we've got time to buy somebody. People are always more expensive in January as well, so we left in the lurch in January and we kind of rush a loan signing and whatever. I just think if he's going to go, we go in the summer, we wish him well, hopefully he goes and does great things wherever he goes. But you're right, we need to then say, well, for the quality to not dip too far, it might still dip because we can't get that level again. But if we do, I'll go and find another one like him. And if you've got more money to spend, the likelihood of doing it is higher. Well, it's not as big a gamble going to get. We're going for what, £2 million or something like that?
1.5.
1.5 million. I mean, what on earth? And O's going for 4.5. It's absolutely ludicrous. So
thank you to Riley McGree for choosing Middlesbrough.
Correct. I mean, it's got to be up there with potentially the best piece of business Celtic have ever done. Buy this guy for 1.5 from MK Dons in League One at the time. And it looks like he'll go for ballpark 25 million.
I would also
having had 2 brilliant seasons, by the way.
I'd include Kyogo in that conversation. The goal return we've had out that laddie for what, £3.5 million?
Yeah, maybe
unbelievable
4.
play.
That is true.
Unbelievable.
But also the thing with, I think the negotiations that Celtic will have will basically be, there's a club record transfer. That's the starting point. Because fans will then buy that. We'll all buy a record transfer fee.
Rightly so.
Well, absolutely. If there's other teams and they're all starting to kind of look at it, by all accounts, I think somebody bid something around about £15 million and Celtic just says that you're miles away. You need to come back with something.
Atalanta.
So they're testing Celtic's resolve with
Listen, maybe that's Celtic, that's Atalanta, that's how everybody does it, Brydo. Maybe they say, we know we need to pay 25, but we're not going to come in at 25. 15?
Yeah.
We'll go for there.
The P. Lowell handbook of transfer negotiations.
We'll see how it goes. It's going to be interesting to see if he gets on the plane to the States. The players are due to take off tomorrow, Tuesday, for that one. There is every possibility he could head out and quickly head back.
I think that's Mr. T, I think.
You've lost me.
I'm going on no plane.
Let's move on. Just a couple of final pieces as we start to wrap things up. So Celtic are back in action, Mif. As we know, they've played a couple of games now. They played Ayr United on the Friday, drew one each out there. Kyogo scored from the spot, and then they beat Queen's Park 6-4, Mif. Defence is on top.
Thriller.
And a friendly.
The keepers.
Well, it was any man save, wasn't it? So 6-4, that was on Wednesday night. Kyogo got a hat-trick, O'Reilly scored. His parting gift was a goal against Queen's Park. And Francis Turley, young guy from Northern Ireland. So as well as Turley, there was several youngsters that got a run out, including Bhoys and Lawal, which I think a lot of folks are excited about. And Dane Murray, who's a guy that I was excited about. He made his debut under Ange against Midfield, I think, back in the day. And very highly rated. He was 18 at the time, and he got a serious knee injury that ruled him out for about a year or so. And it's good to see him back playing, and who knows, I don't know if he's at the level to potentially compete, but there is talent there. We've obviously spent enough time tonight talking about the academy and the players that come through and the players that don't come through, but there is talent there, Mif, and I think these pre-season games, it's always hard to read too much into them, but it's good to see some youth getting a run out.
Well, listen, we're sitting here speculating about who we might be bringing in, and it may very well be that those two players to be promoted up for the B team who have maybe been out on loan or returned for injury are Murray and Lawal, and positions where we probably feel we need strengthened. Lawal's an interesting one because in a poor Fleetwood team who subsequently got relegated, he produced some very good performances and consistently played all through the season. And dare I say that bit of physicality that we need, he's somebody who can go box to box. I know he was previously playing the B team as a centre half, but went down to Fleetwood and played as a midfielder. Quite interesting. But is he then subsequently having spent a season playing, you go back to Celtic and you're maybe spending a bit of time in the bench and it disrupts your rhythm? Will he maybe have had a taste for that and just want to go back out and go on loan again? Or is Rodgers saying, no, I can see you coming in and actually contributing here? It'll just be interesting to see how the next few weeks pan out around that. But at this stage of the season, what you're wanting to see is this is your chance to stake a claim if you're a youngster. Many times has that happened where somebody's come in, played a few pre-season games, done well, catches the eye of the manager, and then you're actually hanging about the squad for the rest of the season. So Murray's a really interesting one because he did look fairly decent,
quite classy
under a fair bit of pressure, and played in some pressurised games when we were trying to qualify for the Champions League. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he develops coming back from injury as well.
Brydo, that's the frustration for a Bhoys and Lawal or any player at that level where he goes and plays. I think he played the best part of 40 games for Fleetwood, and he may then have to come back and step back into Lowland League to play against, I don't know who it is, Civil Service Strollers and Stirling Albion or whoever. Cali Braves, all these teams, with all respect to the teams at that level, but to go from 40 games at a reasonable level down south to this B team doesn't work for me, this Lowland League. It's just not a great level of football, it's not competitive, and I think it's a huge reason why there's a gap between Celtic's academy and the first team, but I don't have the answers either, so I can't moan about it too much. But it's, I suppose, guys like Lawal and others, they're maybe at this crossroads in their Celtic career and it's make or break, isn't it? It is, and
it's up to them. It's up to them to force the issue, and it's up to them to grab the attention of the manager. The manager will get scouting reports from his time at Fleetwood. I'd imagine there's somebody at Celtic's in charge of like loans or whatever. So they'll be down and writing reports about it as well, and feeding it back to Rodgers, and then he'll probably put him in the pre-season group, and then try and get a look at him himself to see if he fits into his way of playing. Playing for Fleetwood, as well we'll all know, is completely different to turning up in front of 60,000 in a Champions League night, for example, or a Celtic Rangers game, or in fact any first team game for us with the pressure that ultimately we put on the players. But at least it's positive though. At least we're seeing guys going down there and actually, I think he was their best player, I believe, for the stuff that I've seen. The young boy coming in, Murray, injuries again, unfortunately, is part of football. We were talking about Kieran Tierney before we came on here. It's just it's the unfortunate part. In fact, you mentioned that about Kelly. That could have happened to him. It could happen to him next week. So you've got to look out for themselves. So it's great when these guys come back from these injuries. like you say, guys like John Kennedy will be a good shoulder for them to lean on and advice and how to come through that properly. So yeah, it is frustrating because I think fans for most clubs they want to see, you know, one of our own type, and they want to see that coming through, and they always get a bit more leeway. They make mistakes, but it's like unlucky wee man.
You want them to do well.
You want them, and you're gunning for them to do well because that's the dream that we all had.
Yep.
You know, that's ultimately what we wanted to do when we were their age. So
you've still got a chance, Brydo.
I think I'm struggling over 35s, mate.
No, but listen, whether it's Lawal, Francis Turley, Dane Murray, any of the rest of the guys, this is our opportunity, as you say, Brydo. They're going out there, they'll play DC United. I think it's maybe Sunday coming. It's 1 in the morning, whatever. Then it's Man City during the week, and it's Chelsea. I don't know what kind of teams they'll be putting out. I don't know if they'll be going with the big hitters, if Haaland will feature. Sean Goater might be up top for City, maybe Uwe Rosler, these kind of guys.
Foden won't be there, mate.
For example. But it'll be a good test. You're up against good quality, and that's where Lawal, it's on him to turn around and say, right, well, I can compete with these guys and I deserve to be a part of the squad. So let's see what happens. Brydo, your final comments for the week?
Just kind of glad to get back into the swing of all things Celtic, to be honest. It's like I say, it's been preoccupied getting your football fix from the Euros, and the climax of it last night was sensational. So, but now it's all things Celtic. The rumour mills are starting to go into overdrive as per. Looking forward to the pre-season games. I've never been a fan of friendlies, to be honest, but you're right, you kind of look forward to them if there's new faces. If there's no new faces, it's like we all watch them go down the park and kick the ball. I mean, jumpers for goalpost type thing.
Would you take the wee guy Yamal from Spain?
You know, I think he's a bit young. I wouldn't give him a chance. I think he's got to learn his got his cloth of colour.
Loan him to Fleetwood. Incredible stuff, eh? Just, I think he turned 17 on Saturday there.
The day before.
And the confidence he's got.
Apparently there's like rules and laws in German football or something like that. He could only play so many minutes of a game, and he had to be off the pitch, showered, changed, and out of his football gear by a certain time at night with Jim and someone told. Now, by the way, someone could have sold me a complete dummy, and I've just done that.
I hope they have.
No, apparently, and then when he turned 17, he can get fined. Yeah. Spain can get fined and stuff.
I had to get in the road and do his maths homework to get back in time for the final. Math, your own final thoughts?
I'm going through a rigorous pre-season myself, as you can probably see. So I get myself back in shape, ready for the season to come, and like Brydo says, just hoping there's a few more incomings for us to talk about in the coming weeks. For Celtic and for Mif, plenty of work to be done is what I'm seeing here. So that wraps things up on this latest pre-season special. Thanks to Brydo and Mif for joining me, and thanks to you for tuning in. Keep an eye out this week for a couple of additional special episodes that we'll be bringing you. And if you enjoy what we do, remember easy Brydo, first shift back in a while. Remember to visit the CelticExchange.supercast.com right now to see how you can support us here at the Celtic Exchange. But in the meantime, as always, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again soon.